But you wasn't about to sit up Oxford, we're going to do that. It's just been a pleasure of working with the city of Oxford because it was, you're able to help and guide some of the people. Even my campaign, you know, I got so many people to register to vote. And they said, you got to do it. You got to vote. You got to call. You got to come to the meeting. And see, I used to walk through the neighborhood and just talk to people on their porch and anything they needed, and like sidewalk. When I first got on the board, we got the sidewalks from Price Hill, Hawthorne Road, and Anderson Road, and even widened the Anderson Road. And all those roads have been widened. It's just, you might say those are little things, but they are important to the people that live in the neighborhood. Yeah. And so I had to support black and support the white in Ward 5. Ward 5 is predominant, very predominant white ward. But I've been elected, like you said, 5 times in that ward. So I work with everybody, get along with everybody in that ward. The people on the mayor and all the people. We you know, it's just that I've been around people long enough to know you just got to just include and do the best and make a difference. Try to make a difference. And that's what I've done here in Oxford. And I think I've succeeded in doing something.
You remember the first time you voted?
Oh yes. Oh yes. I remember the first time I voted because I remember the first time I tried to register, and so they told me that you had to interpret some kind of constitution and this, that, and the other. And so they said, well, you go back there. But then I finally got it ready. So I've been voting every year since I registered. And I was a senior in college at that time. And I had missed, and I kept my registration here in Oxford. I was in March, I was still voting in Lafayette County.
And what was the first year you ran for alderman?
Well, it was 2001.
And I remember Patricia Young and I.
Oh, yes.
We had such a good time out campaigning for you.
She's right, I forgot. They campaigned, they walked in the sun and hot and say, down there off Anderson Road. It was quick. And we were made as guests of the man. She and Patricia Young, they was out and walking and knocking on the door and helping me get re-elected. And they had a nice little write-up about, y'all signed it.
Yeah.
That's why I said we just go back so far, and everything has been just positive. It's just that we just got along. And see, like they were living close enough to us, so at that time we didn't have a telephone yet, but we had to make a call or something that we needed. My father would go and my mother, they would help use it.
You were a popular candidate. You didn't need our help. You got elected.
Well, I need your help. I need your help. I really did.
You served your town well. You sure did.
Like Jim was asking, would you tell the story about that you told him about the different rooms that you would take your dates based on whether you liked them or not?
I don't remember much about that, but we had that house then was just a small house at the end of the road, and it was just, we had just a small group of women. I think we had maybe 30 members at some time, and now they've got 230. Yeah, it was nice. I would living in the country. The men from the campus didn't have much opportunity today, so I would spend a lot of time at the sorority house, and they were kind enough to let me stay there when I had a date or a dance or something. But I'm not sure I remember exactly what what I told you. I must have made something up.
I may have made it up, but you were describing the sorority house. And they had a room in the front,
Yeah.
and then there's something about if you didn't like your dates, you'd meet at a certain place in the house.
Do what?
You would go into a certain room with your date if you didn't like
We
it.
had a chapter room, and I think maybe that's where we would have our days, but we had a house mother, and I tell you, there was no hanky-panky going on with her. She kept a strong arm on her girls. We didn't get by with much, but it was a nice refuge. Everything was, just real, it was a good life, a college life. I was able to have because of the sorority. I'm not sure I'd join a sorority today. I don't know. But it was, at that time, it was a small, close group of friends, and I stayed friends with most of them all my life. 4 of them were very close. Martha Lyles, you all may remember the Lyles family, and she married Earl Wilson, who was a town boy, and Ruth Sneed, I'm sure everybody's familiar with the Sneed family, and Marjorie Black. Marjorie's parents had a cleaning shop. We're just off the square, and tailoring. Yeah, it was a cleaning shop. They laundry and stuff. Anyway, but that's about all I remember. Do you remember a different story, Jim? Sometime my brothers had a little Model A Ford that they had put together. It didn't have any top on it. It was painted green. We called it the Green Army. And after the boys went off, my brothers went off to the war, they left us with me. There's 3 girls, three best friends, and I would pool our money. I think we'd get together maybe a quarter, go to the gas station, buy a quarter's worth of gas, and drive all afternoon. But that little old car was such fun. So famous around campus in town. The most famous story about being in college and these girls, there was a group that had just a little Air Force group they were training in small trainers and the Marquette farm on Highway 7 going automatic. So one of the flyers, one of the soldiers, said, "Well, I'm sure I'll come out some afternoon, we'll give you a ride in the plane." Okay, that's fine, we'll love to. So we packed up in that old Ford cover, went out to the farm where they had the little, you all may remember that as, oh no, you're too young. The little airfield out south of town. But anyway, we got out and they said, "Okay, one of you want to go out? Which one wants to go?" So guess who said yes? And so they struck me in the little plane, and this pilot was standing out front doing the propeller, trying to get the thing to go. Well, it started taking off by itself with me in the plane. And here I was, just waving goodbye. And, it was almost my final goodbye. The soldiers came running out. They were able to turn the plane so it crashed into one of the little houses on the field. And oh boy, were we terrified. And so the soldiers, of course, were more terrified than we were, because they knew this probably meant court-martial for all of them. But we never saw them again. We got in that car and took off. That was my big experience with the military on campus. Jimmy Faulkner and was real close to his Uncle Bill, what do you call it, Brother Bill or something. Anyway, we were double dating with he would borrow Faulkner's car. This whole car was an old Ford and had four seats. And you could see the ground right through the floor of the car. It was absolutely worn out, but it would drive, and it was interesting. Yeah. But that's the way we got to know Faulkner better during the years. I never knew him personally, but see him on the square, sort of terrified of him. He was standing in front of a drugstore and watched the world go by, and he just would not say yes or no, and so I would walk by him in a hurry, afraid he was going to try to ask you a question.
When did you join?
Well, my mother was there, or back in those days, it was sort of a standard proof that you were gentry. And
Okay.
it's the idea that you could trace your relationship to a Revolutionary War soldier. And but I understand that they were, back in those days, pretty hotty-toddy. I didn't belong to, goodness, I think I belonged when I was living in D.C. My mother had been very proud of her membership. Once you're somebody, a relative, you can just tag on to their trace of the heritage and join. I still belong, but I don't want to meet us anymore. I think they've got a nice strong chapter here. Oh, well, it's very important to keep it up. Well, in our case, it's more like a family reunion. And we've been doing it ever since I was a little girl. The family lived in Harmontown. My grandparents had a farm that is now underwater. It was right on the Tallahatchie River went through the farms. So every 4th of July, we would gather all the family members we could get and go down to the river and have a big picnic and fish fry. The men would fish, and the women would sit on the back and gossip and get ready for the big dinner. And but we've done that, missing a few years ever since childhood. And we've kept up the tradition. So when I moved back to Oxford, I took over being the family matriarch, and we're still doing it, so we all come.
Yes, the 4th of July was a day, that you would kind of come out of the fields and have a little time. They call it little picnics at that time. They would kind of have this drum that they would beat, and like Malabar, the street that road name was Malabar, she would always have a picnic, and her daughter kept the tradition going, and so we would go down to those kind of places on 4th of July. And then in the later years, they started to barbecue a little at home, and then talk about the Independence Day, and try to get the young people to understand why you're celebrating the 4th of July.
You all have a big family reunion, don't you?
Oh,
Want to
yes.
see you? You
Yes.
go to different places.
Right.
Have you had one this year?
We're having one about 2 weeks from now.
What is your, where was it?
No, if you're going to have it, you're going to be in Dallas, Texas.
And big crowd?
But we're expecting a big crowd. Right. Yeah. That's the Taylor family, and it's my father and my mother's, the Care family. And so that's the one we're going to in July. It's coming July. Yeah, for the Taylor family too. Yeah. Back in when we was all growing up, like young children, Christmas was the holiday. You look forward so long, Christmas, and then Santa Claus, and then you get your little gift, and you're so excited. And then the children that was away would come home, and some of your aunts, and it was just a enjoyable time, even getting ready for Christmas. You know, putting up the Christmas tree and then on Christmas Eve, you know, all the children had to go to bed early. So I guess the parents were getting all the gifts out. So excited, couldn't sleep. Up early, 5 o'clock in the morning, whatever. And Santa Claus had been, there was fruit and a little toy, and we were so excited we couldn't even eat breakfast that morning. Everybody was just excited about Christmas.
Usually you guys are in Oxford at Christmas, so.
Yeah. And in later years,
Preston got a beautiful little place down near
yes,
a big shopping center.
you downloaded
What's
where
that?
old Jesse Penny used to be.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It's such a pretty place
Right.
down
And so, and all the holidays, like Thanksgiving evening and Christmas, and in later years, when my parents was up in age and I would come home for Thanksgiving off, we would go to Jackson for Thanksgiving. And then they would come up from Jackson, that band, the girls you were speaking of, they would come to Oxford on Christmas
there.
time.
Okay, yeah, that's,
And then when my mother passed,
keep it up.
my father, he lived about 5 or 6, about 6 years after she passed, we take care of him. And then we used to, when he was able, we used to go to Chicago, but then we would come back and then we got stuff, we just would go to Jackson House, stay in Oxford.
And it's been a good life.
Yes, you can have it.
And it has.
And so everybody in my family knows this lady here. They all know her.
A lot of changes.
Yes, indeed. Because she was just so friendly and young with the family, to the family actually. When we got there, we would never forget that trip to D.C. See, it was just so, you had to see people from home, you know, and just to show them around. And that's the trip. We went on up to East Orange. We had some relatives there. And then we stayed there a couple of nights. Then they carried over to New York City and back. And then we left there and drove back to Detroit. And my mother had a sister living in Detroit, so we stayed there a couple of nights. And then back to Chicago and back home. So we had a long trip. It took over 2 weeks. Yeah. But still, the part in my family, we just loved this lady, Miss Howard. We just loved her because she had been just old mom. They just, and my mother just couldn't stay. Just about the work now. She just had to go down to your own house to see her mother.
But we've been integrated a long time before it ever knew what the word meant. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Yes.
the saying about my grandmother in the farms. And Miss Lula said that if she had a big ham bone and the tenants on the farm didn't have any, she'd always just cut it in half and give them half of that ham bone to make soups. I hope they were always that good. They always try to, treat each other right.
But you have done that.
Made the mistake one time of admiring Preston's flowers. He had these beautiful yellow orange cannas down by his house. Well, the next Saturday, when here he came with his spade and a whole bunch of those canna tuberous, and they dug two outside of my driveway, 2 beds, and planted those cannas. And they're about to take over the whole yard. They sure have been hurry.
Yeah, I put some out at Mrs. Young's house too. I kissed them. Because they both was, they was just so absolutely nice and so, and they just helped me so, and I never should forget how you all was walking down. I mean, they didn't have to do it, but they wanted to help me. They get back, and see, in that area, there was a great help. Because when they saw you and Mrs. Young, they just paid up, oh yeah, we'll go from. But it's just been a
Wonderful
pleasure,
family.
our family knowing each other. It's just been absolutely a pleasure.
Mom, is there anything else that you would like to add?
Think of anything else we need to talk about? Yes,
I covered it.
growing up was so different for you than it was for the rest of us. You had a wonderful family that was the answer. You know, your father encouraged education and
Oh, yeah.
doing the right thing with your neighbor. He was a wonderful man. Where did he come from? Was his ancestry?
Well, they started around Taylor, Mississippi, right down the road. No, they
Were his grandparents slaves?
they would, the way they got started, they, mentioned how they got to Taylor. See, on my grandmother's side, her family was sold from Baltimore. And then on my grandfather's side, they were sold down from Richmond, Virginia. So therefore, they wound up in Taylor, Mississippi. And so at that time, you know, they was on, like, that's the Taylor Plantation. So now my name is Taylor because they was on the Taylor Plantation down around Taylor, you know, they own all that down through there. And how they got down here, I don't know where they walked, how they made it from Baltimore and Richmond down, all the way down here. I don't know how many years, but that's where they wound up. Because my grandfather, my father's father, they was born down there in the Taylors there. But my great-grandparents was up from Baltimore and Richmond, and they was in slavery. And my grandfather was about 8 years old when slavery ended. And he was telling my father that, and my father told us that he said that they kind of remembered that when they found out that slavery was over. See, it wasn't on radio, TV, and nothing. They had to be word of mouth going through the neighborhood. He said, well, you know, he said, some of the cousins were saying that, you know, we're free. They heard it. And so it's a long story behind that, but we wound up from that area down here. But I would just like to say, we love you and we love your family, and mine and your family were just a lovely people, and we appreciate you. And even now, they are all this about.
Great. Well, thank you all for doing
Thank you
this.
very much.
It's just been great. And,